Welcome to my channel, UGC NET English Literature Smart Study. After Roman period, now we are in Anglo-Saxon period. Anglo-Saxon Britain, that means coming of three Germanic tribes, Angles, Saxon and Jutes, around 450 AD to Norman conquest of 1066 AD. You can look in this picture, the Anglo-Saxon Jutes, they came in Britain. Anglo-Saxon period. The end of the Roman rule in Britain facilitated the Anglo-Saxon settlement in Britain, which is often regarded as the origin of England and the English people. After the Roman troop left the island permanently, small isolated bands of migratory Germans began to invade around 450 AD. There had been no large invasion with a combined army or fleet, but the tribes, notably the Jutes, Angles and Saxons, quickly established control over modern-day England. They largely came from Scandinavia and northern Germany, first landing in eastern Britain. They came first as mercenaries to help in defense against the Picts and Scots, but soon they began to settle in the country. For the history of the Anglo-Saxon period, we have to depend on Bede's ecclesiastical history and Alfred's Anglo-Saxon chronicle mostly. Though King Alfred himself did not write it under his patronage, the annals were consolidated. We will discuss them in the literature part later. From that annals, we come to know that the immediate reaction of the skirmishes between Celts and the newcomers was not all friendly. In some places where the Celtic power was weak and less in numbers, Anglo-Saxons probably faced no hostility. They settled down beside the Celts in a more or less peaceful manner. But in the West Saxon territory, the invaders met with stubborn grim. They had to take severe repressive methods to secure their power. The Anglo-Saxon society was based on families and clans. There was a severe class distinction between earls, means an aristocrat class, and ceorls, means simple freemen, means common people. Local assemblies took hold of the matter of dispute to settle, and justice was served with punishment or acquittal. The first people to be called English were the Anglo-Saxons. They introduced the Old English language. So, English has derived from Anglo-Saxon language, not from Latin. England. The name England is derived from the Old English name Englaland, which means land of the Angles. The name Englaland became England by haplology during the Middle English period. Haplology is the omission of one occurrence of a sound or syllable which is repeated within a word, elimination of a syllable when two identical or similar syllables occur consecutively. It was identified by American philologist Maurice Bloomfield in the 20th century. These tribes had a greater influence on Britons and than Romans. They developed trade and agriculture, made forts and camps, built roads, constructed walls. They preferred agricultural life. They had strong family and tribal ties, and they are loyal to their king or chief. Heptarchy. The Angles and Saxons and Jutes, they built 7 kingdoms. Kent, Essex, Sussex, Wessex, East Anglia, Mercia and Northumbria. This is combinedly called heptarchy, a Greek word meaning rule of 7. In the early part of the 7th century, Northumbria took the sceptre of power and ruled with progress and prosperity. But Mercia took hold of the leadership around the 8th century. Finally, King Egbert of Wessex exacted his influence over the heptarchy. He was considered the first remarkable Anglo-Saxon king. The next Saxon king of great importance was King Alfred. Christianity. At the end of the 6th century, about 597 AD, Christianity was introduced in Britain when Pope Gregory sent St. Augustine to Britain. The Romans had introduced Christianity earlier among the Celts, but officially the propaganda of Christianity started with the arrival of St. Augustine. Missionaries were sent from Rome to preach Christian doctrine among the people. King Ethelbert of Kent was baptized. Latin influence stirred its head from then. Viking attack. During the 800 AD, the Danes or Vikings, a seafaring people, attacked England and easily conquered the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Their raids in England were primarily on the monasteries. Lindisfarne Abbey on the coast of Northumberland was destroyed in their hands. In the successive years, the severity of Viking attacks intensified. On the Irish coast, different parts of the monasteries were abolished, burnt and abandoned. They set up their trading centers and extended defensive walls to protect their territories. Alfred the Great, the Anglo-Saxon king of Wessex, resisted Danish attacks. After King Alfred died in 899 AD, Wessex became weak and gradually the Anglo-Saxons were crushed. The last great Saxon king was Edward the Confessor, who ruled till 1066. The Battle of Hastings and the end of Anglo-Saxon period. The landmark. Edward the Confessor had supposedly willed the kingdom to William of Normandy, but also seemed to favor Harold Godwinson as his successor. So, upon one throne there was two successors, William Normandy, Harold Godwinson. Edward the Confessor was childless. William's claims to the English throne derived from his familial relationship with the childless Anglo-Saxon king Edward the Confessor. Though Edward willed or promised the throne to William, when he died in January 1066, his brother-in-law Harold II succeeded the throne. Then what happened? William with his army crossed the channel from France to claim his right. Harold was defeated by the Normans at the Battle of Hastings in October 1066. So that is the story. So from 450 AD to 1066 AD, these long 700 years are marked with the Anglo-Saxon settlement, and this period is known as the Anglo-Saxon period or Old English period. Okay, guys, you may ask me, why are you teaching these things? These are not related to NET syllabus, because NET syllabus started from Chaucer. Okay, cool down, I know that. But when I read in this way. Just I take the thread from the start. I always believe in taking the thread from the start, so that I can remember chronologically, thoroughly, not abruptly. If you learn anything abruptly, you will forget. But if you learn it in a storytelling way and thoroughly, you will never forget. If any question comes from any area, you can easily associate the question with that context, with that particular age, with that particular characteristic, and then you can guess. Listen, in any competitive exam, you have to increase your guessing power. You have to practice more practice, and you have to depend on your guessing power. One who has the most certain guessing power, he will score the highest. So if you know the whole syllabus thoroughly, positively, then your guessing power will be strong. That is my point. And history of literature is such a vast thing that at least you keep the thread from beginning to end. That is my point. Okay, anyway, if you think that it is helpful to you, then share it and subscribe. Thank you.